In San Francisco, Harvey Milk found his true calling, politics. He took to holding impromptu discussions on the issues with friends at Castro Camera. Appalled by many city policies and the lack of political voice for the gay community, he developed a strong desire to make a difference. Unlike the gay political groups of San Francisco, Harvey Milk believed that the only way of gaining a political voice for the community was by directly electing an openly gay official, rather than bargaining with liberal politicians. In 1973, Harvey Milk announced his candidacy for the city supervisorial race. Rather than spending inordinate amounts of money on campaigning, Harvey reached out directly to the people by registering voters and going out to shake hands. In the end, Harvey lost the election, but not by much, winning virtually all liberal and gay areas. Through his campaigning, Milk had gained the support of the gay community, becoming one of the most prominent gay leaders of San Francisco. He soon became known as the mayor of Castro Street. In 1975, he ran for supervisor again, but this time as a more serious candidate. He cut his hair, began wearing three-piece suits, and swore off pot. Once again, he lost, but this time by an even narrower margin. He is gaining ground and nationwide publicity. 1976 and 1977 were difficult politically for Harvey Milk. He had run and lost in the election for state assembly in 1976. Things had been going well for the gay rights movement, as different cities began to give them rights, but in 1977, former pageant girl and orange juice spokesperson Anita Bryant, along with her campaign, Save Our Children from Homosexuality, successfully overturned a law protecting gays from discrimination in Dade County, Florida. Since then, other cities had followed suit, and brutality against gays had risen. After these setbacks, Harvey was once again ready to run for supervisor in 1977. Being his fourth election, there was even more urgency for a win, but luckily for Harvey, the odds were in his favor. The city had recently voted to elect supervisors straight from their districts rather than on a citywide, at-large basis. This meant that all Harvey had to do was win his liberal, largely gay district, and he would be supervisor. Harvey campaigned harder than ever before, constantly registering voters, shaking hands at bus stations, and making speeches. Finally, his feverish campaigning paid off. He won his district by more than a 30% margin. Harvey Milk was now the first openly gay man elected to public office. It was around this time that Milk began giving his famous Hope speech.
2 days after I was elected, I got a phone call, and the voice was quite young. It was from Altoona, Pennsylvania, and the person said, "Thanks. And you've got to elect gay people so that that young child and the thousands upon thousands like that child know that there's hope for a better world. There's hope for a better tomorrow. Without hope, not only gays, but those blacks, and the Asians, and the disabled, and the seniors." The S's, without hope, the S's give up. I know that you cannot live on hope alone, but without it, life is not worth living. And you've got to give them hope. Thank you very much.
Although it seemed like Harvey Milk was simply interested in advocating gay rights as supervisor, he had many other plans for the city. His main concerns were the maintenance of neighborhoods and minorities, especially the elderly. Milk strived to enrich neighborhoods by keeping local libraries and grade schools open. He also instituted daily street cleaning of the Castro. He made enemies with real estate developers who were creating downtown businesses that would tear down low-income housing. He also wanted to create a child care system that could be used for those on welfare. He believed much of this could be achieved by using money from income taxes. This is where he strongly opposed many Republicans.
The Republican Party in this state now saying no income tax, as long as, this was last week in L.A., as long as income tax went for highway expansions, airport, golf courses, and so forth, it was good. Now that income tax is going for senior citizens, abortions, and so forth, all of a sudden income tax is no good.
Milk's first legislative proposal called for a ban on all forms of discrimination against gays in the city. The 11-person board passed his proposal by an amazing 10-to-1 vote. The one nay vote was cast by Supervisor Dan White, an enemy Harvey had made when he refused to block the opening of an asylum in White's district. Harvey's next challenge came from the introduction of the Briggs Initiative, or Prop 6, a creation of State Senator John Briggs. If passed, it would require schools to fire teachers who were found to be homosexual, or any teacher who supported homosexuals. Immediately, Harvey Milk created San Franciscans Against Prop 6. He figured that it was most important for the proposition to be shot down in the prominently liberal and gay San Francisco. A loss there would be embarrassing and disheartening for the movement. Milk campaigned against the proposition fiercely, appearing in the Gay Freedom Parade, speaking out against it anywhere he could, and encouraging all gays to come out to their families, led by the theory that someone was more likely to vote against the proposition if they knew that they knew at least one homosexual. On November 7th, the Briggs Initiative was defeated by a 2-to-1 margin. Harvey Milk and the gay community had won. 3 days after the loss of Prop 6, struggling supervisor and political enemy of Harvey Milk, Dan White, announced his resignation from his job, stating that the yearly salary was too meager to support his family. But a week later, White requested of Mayor Moscone that he be allowed to return to his position. At first Moscone was willing, but Milk told him that he would lose every gay vote if he did so. The day Moscone planned on announcing Dan White's replacement, White snuck into City Hall through an open window to avoid metal detectors. He then met with Mayor Moscone and later Harvey Milk.
Good evening. George Moscone, the mayor of San Francisco, was shot dead in his office in City Hall this morning. So was Harvey Milk, a city supervisor. Both shot, both murdered. The police arrested Dan White, a one-time city supervisor who had resigned and wanted Moscone to reappoint him, but he had not agreed to do so. Here's Rick Davis in San Francisco.
Confusion after the shooting, the president of the Board of Supervisors, Dianne Feinstein, spoke.
Both Mayor Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk have been shot and killed. The suspect is Supervisor Dan White.
The night of Milk's and Moscone's deaths, thousands participated in a silent vigil down the Castro to City Hall. Although Harvey Milk's life had been cut short, he left a legacy for the gay rights movement. He had given hope to his community and also pride in their existence. Milk always stood up for his people, never failing to do what was best for them and never wavering on any position he took. But Milk was not just a politician or a candidate. He was truly a visionary and a hero for the gay community and forgotten minorities, for he was a true believer in equality.